If your glass shower doors are cloudy from soap scum and hard water buildup, let me show you the best way to clean that up. The first thing I always like to start with is just giving the entire shower a quick rinse. For me, I just grab a plastic cup and just give it a quick splash. That way you get rid of things like hair or anything that's on the surface that can easily be rinsed away, so it makes the cleaning process so much easier. Now for this job, it's very important to have the right cleaner. You want something acidic that can cut through all the hard water buildup. Now, the two that I just keep coming back to and use all the time, because all the other ones I've tested just don't work as well, are these two right here. The first is my DIY vinegar mix. This is 1 cup white vinegar, 1 cup water, and about a teaspoon of the Blue Dawn dish soap. If you've watched my videos before, you know how much I love this. This works really well on more like moderately dirty glass shower doors, or really as a everyday kind of weekly cleaner to keep up with it. However, if yours are very dirty at home, this one right here is the one you want. This is Barkeeper's Friend More Spray. Now this actually has something called oxalic acid in it, so it's a little stronger than the DIY vinegar mix. So this is the one I use when I just need to restore glass shower doors that haven't been cleaned in a very long time, or if you just live in an area where the hard water builds up super fast, you'll want to go with this one. Because we are cleaning in our bathrooms today, and usually there's a tight space and not a ton of airflow, it's always a good idea to open the window or turn the fan on so we have proper ventilation. For this shower today, I am going to be using the More Spray. Now, when you use this, or really any cleaner, it's always a good idea to start at the top and spray your way down to the floor. The other thing when it comes to cleaning a glass shower door is you want to make sure you apply enough cleaner, because if you don't apply enough to those really bad areas, there's not enough acid there to cut through and just eat away at all of that hard water buildup, so you might have to clean it again. The other thing is dwell time. I talk about this all the time on the channel, but let your cleaner sit there and do its job. That way you don't have to scrub as much. My go-to scrubber for this job is just a basic Scrub Daddy. I really like these because they're strong enough to cut through all the buildup on the glass, but they're not too strong where they could potentially cause damage either. Now, when using this, I just like to work in kind of circular motions across the glass, because many times that buildup needs a little bit extra scrubbing. So if you just go up and down, sometimes you might miss something. So if you work in a circular motion, you're kind of just double scrubbing in a few of those areas, and it's usually pretty satisfying as well. Now, a quick pro tip with the Scrub Daddies is they get hard in cold water and they get soft in warm water. So if you do need a little extra scrubbing power, run them under some cold water. They'll stiffen up a little bit and give you that extra juice. Now, depending on the type of glass shower doors you have at home, sometimes you'll have a bumper like this one here that easily pops off, or if the door swings open or to the inside, many times there's one on the bottom. But I do like to suggest removing these if possible, because if you notice on this one here, there's a bunch of kind of mold and mildew on the bottom there, and usually you can't quite get to that if it's still on the glass. So while you're cleaning everything else, give this a quick clean. You can use the More Spray or the vinegar mix, works really well for this kind of stuff, but that way it's nice and clean once your glass is clean too. Depending on how dirty the glass shower doors are, sometimes the Scrub Daddy is just not strong enough to cut through that really thick layer of hard water. There's another scrubber I like to recommend, and that is steel wool grade 0000. That is 4 zeros and super important to remember because it's the ultra fine grade. And if you use any of the other types of steel wool, it will cause damage and scratch the glass. Now, there are a few things to keep in mind with steel wool, and that's kind of the reason I don't recommend it right away, is because you do have to use caution with it, and you want to be as safe as possible so you don't cause any other damage while you're cleaning. The first thing is make sure the surface is always lubricated with your cleaner before you start scrubbing with the steel wool, because if you do use it on a dry surface, you just always run the risk of scratching or causing damage. The other thing I always like to mention, and sometimes this can be easily forgotten, is make sure to always use a new piece of steel wool, because if you use an old one that got wet, it's most likely going to be rusted a little bit, and you might not even see it. It might be on the inside of the piece there, and that rust will scratch the glass. And the last thing is I just always like to use it with gloves. The reason being is sometimes those pieces can come off as you're scrubbing. And if you've ever gotten one in your hand or in your skin, it is not a good time. If you're enjoying this video so far, I have one small favor to ask. Please consider subscribing to the channel. We are so close to that 1 million mark. So at this point of the clean, we sprayed our cleaners down, we gave everything a good scrub. And so the next step is just to make sure to rinse the surface really well. For this, I'll just use a cup with some water. My tip, I always mention this, but it's always a game changer for me. My dad showed this to me, but that is just fill it up with some water and then place it on the glass and lift the bottom. This kind of creates a waterfall so it easily rinses everything. Now, if you're sitting at home with a shower that has the nice attachment that comes off, those are amazing. Use that. It'll make this part quick and easy. But at this point, you should really see what's clean, and sometimes you'll notice areas that need a little bit more attention. So don't be discouraged if you see a few areas that just don't look as clean. What I recommend is just come through, spray your cleaner down, give it another scrub and rinse. You might have to clean it a few times to really remove all of that buildup. Once everything is nice and clean and rinsed and you have no more buildup, first of all, give yourself a high five. Awesome job. To really level up the clean, I do recommend coming through with a squeegee if possible first. This is just going to remove all the water from the surface. And then I come through with a dry clean microfiber cloth and just buff and dry any remaining moisture that might be on the glass. This just removes any streaks that might be there as well, and it just makes everything look pristine. I will be the first to tell you that glass shower doors are a pain to clean. That buildup happens so fast. So now that you've got them nice and clean, there are a few things I always recommend to keep them that way, so that way you don't have to do as deep of a clean in the future. The first is invest in a squeegee and use it after every shower. If you remove the water from the glass so it doesn't sit there and dry, those hard water minerals and things are not going to build up on the surface, so you don't have to clean them, and it just makes your life way easier. The second thing you can try as well is using something called Rain-X. Now, you don't have to do this, but essentially what this does is create a barrier on the glass there once you've applied it and it's dried. That way the water easily beads up on the surface and runs down, and it won't stay there. But I'll be real, if you use a squeegee every day and you build that habit, you usually don't have to use the Rain-X. This is just kind of a safety net. That way if you do forget, hopefully it won't dry on the surface and it won't create that buildup. And there you have it. Now you know the best way to get your glass shower doors sparkling clean. Thanks so much for watching as always, and if you're new here, consider subscribing. We are so close to that 1,000,000 mark. I also need to give a huge shout out to the Clean Squad members over on our Patreon. Thank you so much for your continued support. If you want to join us over there and get access to PDF cleaning guides, your name credited down below, and so much more, check the link down in the description. And as always, I'll see you on the next clean.